Did you know that the NASDAQ 100 and the S&P 500 are changing the rules so that when SpaceX IPOs in June, they can quickly get into the index? We're going to talk about that today. Look, give you a little market update. And I'm going to tell you something painful that happened to me yesterday. And just as I was kind of doing my normal Sunday routine. I do want to remind you this is a financial education presentation. You must do your own due diligence before acting on anything you hear in this presentation. More disclaimer can be found on ankerstarwealth.com, and the opinions expressed are mine alone. Looks like this morning we've got really very flat markets, oil popping again, rates up. So we're getting that same little pattern where stocks are up, oil's up, and rates are up, which is that is not a normal pattern. So something to keep an eye on. Not everything can go up all the time. All right. Um, Here we go. So yeah, I don't know anything about, what's going on in the Middle East. From my understanding, it seems like our politicians have been saying that it will be over soon for a little while, but then you read something like Iran says it will never bow. I don't know. I don't know. But it seems like at least for today, oil prices are rising, as a result of any developments that happened there over the weekend. Jumping over, this is what happened to me yesterday. So I go to fill up my gas tank in my truck, and up until now, you're like kind of you thinking, okay, I got to suck this up, right? Not going to complain. It is what it is. Got some little higher oil prices, but no. Yesterday, I, it cost me $150 to fill up my tank, and I was like, you know what? I'm ready to cry uncle at this point because it's just that's too much. At least relative to what we're used to. Um, so yeah, and then you go look at these national gas prices. We're up at 452. A week ago it was 445, but a month ago, yeah, I think the last time I filled up, it was something like four. It was like, yeah, 50 cents higher from the last time I filled up. Is anybody else feeling it out there? Is anybody else feeling that squeeze at the pump? And then a year ago, of course, significantly cheaper. Will say that, the all-time high for regular unleaded on a national level is still 50 cents higher than what we're at right now. So I guess in terms of, you want to feel some pain, we've got a ways to go before people are really feeling that pinch. But I'll tell you what, I was already ready to throw in the towel yesterday. So look, if you see me on a bike, just just don't be surprised by that. All right, let's talk about the rules. So the rules are changing here for the NASDAQ 100 and the S&P 500 in anticipation of the SpaceX IPO coming in June. The NASDAQ 100 here's their rules changes. And I want to know your opinion on this. So what do you think? Here we go. These are their fast entry rules. That's what it's called. So we've never had this before. Like you think about Tesla, right? That's another Elon company. Tesla took a long time to get in the indexes because they had to meet profitability rules and they had to reach certain size, things like that. Now, of course, index investors would have benefited from Tesla being in the index sooner, right? It was an amazing ride, thousands of % gain. So there's an argument to be made there for a fast entry. Of course, Tesla was small and Tesla was unprofitable for a long time prior to meeting those requirements and getting in. And Tesla grew a lot after getting in. So, that's all part of this. Here's what they're talking about for fast entry. And this is related to SpaceX. So a security that's not already an index constituent may be added to the index on an expedited basis if its market cap is within the top 40. So here's what they're talking about. They're saying that for a company like SpaceX should be, we'll call it 2 trillion or so. If SpaceX is worth 2 trillion, they are a meaningful part of the stock market. That's very true. And because they're a meaningful part of the stock market, they should obviously be in the index just so that investors' returns are tied to the exact makeup of the overall stock market at that time. So that's kind of their their number one point, is that SpaceX is so big that it would be wrong for investors not to own it. So again, that's their take. Let's see what else they say. Such an addition will follow the weight interpolation okay, yeah, so they'll be added. A fast entry inclusion will not require the removal of another security, right? So they could end up with more than 100 companies in the NASDAQ. Of course, they tend to be just right at 100. I think right now they're at 101. And so that can ebb and flow a little bit. But yeah, for now they're at 101 and generally try to stay at 100. And then when the company will get in, the company will be evaluated as the end of the 7th trading day, as of the end of the 7th trading day. Typically, such a security will be added after 15 trading days. So SpaceX goes public, let's say middle of June, June 20th or something. Really, by the middle of July, SpaceX should be in the NASDAQ 100. And here's what it'll look like. So if you're just talking the NASDAQ, it's only 100 companies here, and SpaceX is going to be about as big as Broadcom, should be about as big as Broadcom once that time comes. That's what it'll, and this is your 100 companies in the NASDAQ 100. So with another, Broadcom will still be there, obviously, but you'll see a SpaceX in here, and it'll be about that size. And yeah, it's just going to be interesting. I mean, it's coming sooner than we think, right? It's middle of May. By the middle of July, we should see SpaceX here. So very interesting. Now, if we hop over to the S&P 500, the S&P 500 is also, this one hasn't been approved, but the S&P 500 is trying to change their rules as well. So their current rules are a company needs to be public for 12 months before getting included. Now they're talking 6 months. So they will want to get SpaceX in like December, which would be 6 months faster than any company before. They talk about how much of the company must be traded on the open market. So generally, they're looking for 10% of a company's float. That's the shares that are kind of new shares through an IPO, or shares that just trade on the open market. They want at least 10% before they will let a company in. SpaceX is going to be really, really small. It'll be like 5%. Only 5% of the shares will actually be traded. And so they want to get around that rule for SpaceX, so they're moving that rule down. There is no limit here as long as you're a large company. And then the financial viability. Typically, for the S&P 500, you would need to be and have positive GAAP net income for 4 quarters, 4 consecutive quarters. And now they're saying a company that is determined to be a mega cap company is not required to pass the financial viability criteria. So you don't need to be a financially viable company anymore as long as you're big. So that's kind of some of the rule changes that are proposed. This is a topic of debate. Some investors say that they're trying to fast track SpaceX wrongfully, and that SpaceX should have to meet all of the other criteria. One problem, SpaceX is going to have a lot of trouble reaching profitability. So they, I don't know, I don't want to say that they never will, but they have so much depreciation because of the equipment that they launch depreciates so fast, the satellites, the rockets. So you'll see things like SpaceX is EBITDA profitable, but earnings before depreciation, interest, taxes, and things like that, I mean, that's still not really being profitable. And it's going to be really hard for SpaceX to overcome that depreciation hurdle. Not necessarily that their cash flow will be terrible. It shouldn't. But just earnings are going to be a real tough thing for them. So I don't know. There's part of me, obviously, do I think SpaceX is going to be representative of the market? Will index investors want it? Yeah, that seems pretty obvious. But there's another part of me that wonders if is this the culmination of 4 decades of index investing? It's like have the indexes massaged investors just enough to where they're totally price agnostic, that then you can get a big unprofitable company to come along, hop in the index, and anyone will pay any price because index investors are price agnostic anyway. And that's kind of like Wall Street's new trick. We'll have to see. So just something to watch. Hey, and it's slow news day, so I figured I'd hit on this. Hey, I hope everyone has a good day out there. Hopefully we get some more green in the market today. Take care, everyone. I'll see you soon.